Hi, Renata. Welcome to the High Vibration Living Podcast.
Thank you, Whitney. I'm so happy to finally be here with you. It's a joy to connect with you. And then we're all in high vibration. So I love what you do.
Yeah, me too. I just got the chills. Having you on the podcast has been a long time coming. And I was first introduced to Dr. Joseph Michael Levry through our mutual friend, Michael Canali. And he first mentioned Dr. Levry to me in 2019 and was highly encouraging me to go to the yoga studio in Santa Monica, take classes. He said, these are my people. This will change my life. And anytime that I had appointments with Michael and he could see that I was stressed or things were going on with my businesses, he would play mantras and music that had been given to him by Dr. Levry to keep him protected, upgrade his vibrational energy. And that's when he ultimately introduced me to you. And here we are.
Amazing. I didn't know that piece of the story. This is so amazing. So then the universe put us together right there next to his, in his chair. So it's a blessing. I'm so happy to hear that story because it's good. Also, many times people come to us, we don't know how, like in this case, of course, when it was Michael, but it's always good to know the timing, like 2019 and we're now 2023 and, made this podcast live forever and for everybody that benefit from in the years to come. Time is always moving. But it's a perfect time in divine order. And I'm so blessed and I feel really honored to be here with you today.
Thank you. Well, so tell me, how did you get connected with Dr. Levry, Nam International, Nam Yoga?
All right. So I moved, I was originally born in Brazil. I moved to Europe. And then from Europe, I met my husband in Spain. I moved to New York. And as soon as I got to New York, it's a very kind of funny story, not interesting, that my husband was in airline business and he would have all these different dinners and conferences. And then there was a woman there that was a student of Dr. Levry. And then she said, you should take your wife to this center in New York on 24th Street. And then he came back to me and I was traveling back and forth between Spain because I was studying in Spain as well. And then another person, I was taking a course in New York, said like, you should really go to this place and then meet Dr. Levry. And then I was like, is this the same? Like this is New York City. Like I'm in Manhattan. There is like millions of people, millions, or I don't know, millions, but like hundreds probably of yoga studios and centers and healing places. And then I was like, this is like the same place. So I decided to go one Wednesday night. It used to be Dr. Levry's masterclass every Wednesday night. And then I was there and then I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like this is very spiritual at the same time, very practical, because as a mystic that I consider myself to be and a very spiritual person, I like to be practical. I also use my logic now after all this almost 23 years of this work. It's more intuitive logic. So it's a logic combined with intuition. And I was like, I think I like this a lot, because I don't like the people that are too like woo-woo. And Dr. Levry is an engineer, so that was it. And then I went there every single Wednesday. And because I was so blessed to travel, I had like very easy for me to travel around the world because of my husband's company. I went everywhere around the world with Dr. Levry. I went to Sweden, I went to Spain, I went to Germany, I went to Switzerland, I went to Israel, I went to South Africa, I went everywhere. And I'm blessed to this day, work very closely to him. Some people say the right hand. I don't like to say that, but I am blessed with this, guidance that it's very solid. There's a lot of integrity and real. The last trip was in Ivory Coast, which was, visiting his family, and he comes from a very, very, very spiritual family. It's like, for people to be able to relate and even grasp a little bit what I mean, is like a Harry Potter family, like everybody does magic, literally.
Yeah.
So that was like, after all this 2 decades of working with him, only now he took only few people to the Ivory Coast to actually get initiated by his sisters. And he really believes, and I think one of the reason why I love working with Dr. Levry is that he's really pushing for women, for the woman to kind of lead the spiritual path, and then, to eventually lead the world, because we have what it takes in terms of love, and also the intuition, and the intelligence, the type of intelligence that is necessary, that is not so left brain, but is more right brain. And after meeting his sisters, was just like, wow, like, now I even understand deeper. So it has been a real blessing to work with the Levrys, and of course with Dr. Levry, that happens to be here in California. And because of the, as I told you, I'm like multiple nationalities. I'm Italian, Brazilian, American. And I realized, especially living in LA, moving from New York now has been 12 years. I noticed that people are very easily impressed, like they're very impressionable, I guess is the word. And then also that people underestimate when something is too accessible. And as you said, you're like, we had Dr. Levry here in, at 7 in Santa Monica, or back in Santa Monica. And a lot of people don't even know the power that they had right in front of them, because he's very humble and he's very make it seem like nothing. But after this trip, it was, I've seen it throughout this decades, but after that, it was like, wow, even my logical, skeptical mind was like, cheers, and just got some green juice. It's mantra infused.
So tell me, and for people that aren't familiar with who we're talking about and what we're talking about, what is Nam International and Nam Yoga?
Okay, so Nam International is like our non-for-profit. We have a 501c3, and it's a non-profit organization that is a charitable organization that helps people in all walks of life. So we have done work in jails, with homeless. We have done work with women, abused women, children with autism. So to this day, after the pandemic, we had to readjust, and we are in the process now. But to this day, we have classes that are for free for the community, so anybody can access. So it's not that this is only for the ones that actually can pay higher tickets, but we help all society, all levels of society. We have had many, maybe super classes, we call it, in Mexico, which would be wonderful for you guys to see the video. We have hundreds of thousands of people in the street that come to do breath work and then chant mantra and literally increase vibrations, which it gives me the chills now, because it kind of, when I talk about it, I get the experience of, the memory back, when you're going through your mind of something and relive it. So when I remember the very first time we walk into the stage with Dr. Levry, I also happened to translate to him in Spanish, even though Spanish is not my first language. And I remember walking into the stage and then looking, I don't know how it is if you ever been on the other side of a big concert. You have all these people, but looking from the other side is like the view that I have right now. I see the ocean. It's like you see an ocean of people that they don't know anything of anything. They come with their hearts open, with the faith that what they're going to do is going to transform their life, because it's kind of like you're entering in a chamber of high vibration. And when you leave, something miraculous can happen because you literally raising your vibration. So the work we do is about raising vibration. That's why when we first met, I was like, oh, I have to, I cannot miss this connection, because I think it's so important what you're doing, because we are also what we think, but mainly what we eat. And your work is wonderful, and everybody that works with you are so lucky and blessed. So I cannot wait to eat your food.
Well, and we'll get into that, because thanks to you, I did the Sukshma Method. I took the online class that you guys have on your website, and I was so powered up.
I know.
There was so much energy inside me yesterday morning after I took that class. I then had to go work for a client and cook for them.
Mm-hmm.
And their food, obviously we know energy is food. Mm-hmm. But what we try to teach on this podcast is you can add more energy into any food, and you can fill your body with so much energy that you don't necessarily need to eat that much.
Right.
Be more mindful with what you choose. And so yesterday I did the Sukshma Method. I took your online course. It's 90 minutes. I could only get through 24 minutes. because I couldn't stand. So at the 14-minute mark, when Ekon came on, when you guys were chanting Ekon, and we got to that, at the 14-minute point, I started to pass out and I couldn't stand.
I told you before, be very careful.
You did. You gave me great recommendation for my first time, and we'll get into that so the listener can better understand. So what we're talking about is the Sukshma yoga method. It's a 90-minute class. You basically, are starting from your head, going down to your toes. There's a lot of similarities to Kundalini yoga, which I've done a lot of. So I felt
in fact, that's where everything that is in Kundalini yoga that people know in the Western world, they learn from Dhirendra Brahmachari. So Yogi Bhajan and many other, even Ravi Shankar in The Art of Living, all of these great yogis that came to the Western world that people know, they all learn from the source of the Sukshma Vyayama. We call it Sukshmah Method in the Western world, but the name is Sukshma Vyayama. And because I get to meet one of the right-hand men of the yogi that became very famous in India because he was on TV. And when we met him in South Africa, I think it was 2019 or 20, Dr. Levry brought him to meet so we could meet him and then he could tell us the true stories, right? And he said, all these yogis that you guys have it, and he speaks with very, very nice accent. All of these yogis, they all come to the Dhirendra ashram. And they all learn the Sukshma method, and then they adapt in different ways. And, some of them got more into the asana part because they do this method. They do this type of breathing, this combination of micro movement before they do anything else. In India, for, if anybody that is not a yogi here, and I'm not just a yogi. I like to make sure that it's clear. Sometimes Michael's like, oh, she's a yogi. It's like, Michael, I'm a mystic. I have a lot more than yoga. Yoga is like the tip of the iceberg. But I was saying that like, there's so much more to it, like so much more. I lost my thought, but anyway, so to continue, yes, there are similarities because it comes from it. And that's part of my mission, is to get the world to know that this is the foundation of what everybody does it. But in the Western world, they're not interested so much because they think it's like the plastic surgery versus, you doing facial exercise or yoga for the face, because it's easier. So people like the asanas because it's easier and you don't have to work as so hard and you get a sweat, which makes people happy and it feels like a workout. But in reality, in India, I remember my thoughts, sorry, and then I let you continue, is that their practice is not like 50 minutes, 45 minutes here. I know like people want something quick. It's like 3-4 hours. When we were in South Africa, I would be with him like for 5 hours in the room. So we'll do Sukshma, then we're going to do some asanas, we're going to do pranayam, then we do meditation. It's a long thing, which we all understand that is hard nowadays. And, but just I'm glad that you said that because I could inform that part. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So I only got to do 24 minutes yesterday because it was my first time and I knew that's all I could handle. So at the 14-minute mark, when Ekon came on, that's when I started to lose my balance and I had to sit. And then I continued on until the 24-minute mark, just sitting on my knees, doing the practice. And then I knew I just couldn't do anymore because I had to ultimately, get up and go and work and cook for a client.
Right.
But I was so wired and full of energy that I know my clients, with all the meals I prepared for them yesterday, that energy is so infused into that food that's going to move them, whether they know it or not, in a huge up spiral fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Because everything that we think, everything that we say, everything that we feel, our actions and our attitude, they are vibrational and they get infused into everything. Like, they say like in this, as a chef and everybody that are part of your podcast or come here, like you should never eat food from someone that is upset or angry, because that food literally becomes poison. So like it's things that people know, but at the same token, you actually can cook with all this love and all of the high vibration, and actually your food becomes literally medicine. I know that when my husband like hands me this cup of juice every morning, because he's very consistent and he brings it, often I'm in the meeting or something and he kindly come in and brings it and very lightly place it on the table, I know that there's so much love that this is my medicine, is my morning medicine. So I congratulate you for the work you're doing, and God bless all of your clients. So they should be so honored to eat food of high vibration, because it's literally medicine, and it's not, it's not paying lots of money for the pharmaceuticals.
Thank you. Well, let's talk about the Sukshma yoga method.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? And
Okay.
how did you get introduced to it?
So everything basically in the last 23 years, I learned through Dr. Levry. So he is my spiritual teacher. He's my spiritual guide. He's my mentor. And he's a well-traveled mystic himself, a Kabbalist and yogi. So he basically it's like a lot of people come and then they distill the best of the best, and then they bring it to us. In this case, he is someone that has, was born in this kind of spiritual world. And the Sukshma, in many different travels that he had in India, he got very interested, because he's like, I don't want to be putting my foot in my head and doing all of the different asanas. It's like, I want something that is going to be useful for everyday life, that it doesn't matter if I'm flexible, if I'm not flexible, if I'm on a plane, or if I'm on a meeting, something that actually is going to help me. So he got into the Sukshma Vyayama method, the Sukshma Vyayama, which is the method now that we're using. And I started realizing how powerful this method is, because it's a combination of micro movement with breath. And then the way we do it, we use his music, Dr. Levry's music, to infuse everything. So when you do a full class, you're going to see that every exercise has a music. And as we train teachers, I was talking to a woman that is about to certify, and she said, I realized that if I don't have the music right, the playlist, then I get lost, because the music is planned for this exercise. Like if you put certain amount of salt, that is going to make the food tastier, or is going to be a killer, right? So you have to use the right music. So the sound, the movement, the breath is all precisely combined to create this explosion of energy that you're talking about. But Sukshma really means the subtle. And Sukshma Vyayama is working with the subtle body. We have the physical body that everybody touches and sees, but within the body, the same way that we have the veins and the arteries, we have the energy channels. Many people know them as meridian, like an acupuncture or shiatsu. So those energy channels, they are not all the time cleaned up. It's like pipes that they need to be clear. They need to get obstacles and get obstructions out of the way. And the method, Sukshma method, what it does is through the breath and through the exercise, and it's very precise order. So it's always the same order. You always start in the brain first, you go into the eyes, and you descend all the way to your toe, because you don't want to miss any part of the body. Because maybe you're having a situation in your eye, but it's really coming from your liver. Mm-hmm. So if I just keep putting eye drops and putting medicine in my eyes, but I'm not addressing my liver, and I'm not addressing maybe my anger or situations, then as much as I can do things in here is not going to completely heal. Same thing for, wasting disease, the C1 that I normally don't like to bring the name up because of its vibration, right?
Yes.
So I don't want to put a label to it, but everything, it's basically different vibrations that you wanted to raise the vibration, and then you want to clear the body, the energy body. So the Sukshma method, by these micro movements that look very simple, and sometimes they're simple, but they're not so easy to perform. It's for everyone, and they're opening the body. So the feeling of energy that you got with this, a fifth of the practice is just the beginning, because that feeling happens. It's just like a headache. Like when you have a headache, you can't think properly, oh my God. And then you the headache is gone, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful not to have that headache. It's the same with energy. Sometimes you're settled with mediocrity levels of energy. But then when you access a little bit of more energy, some people do through coffee or through different things that they're using to bring energy levels, then he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But imagine that you train yourself to do this, to clear your own pipes, so you can access the vital energy that is within you, and then the high vibrational oxygen that is around us, that is free for everyone. You don't need to pay. There is no refills for it. You know how to use it, and then you have a better health, in your, total health, not just physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health.
How many days a week should we be doing this practice?
Ideally, you should do like minimum 3 times a week, and then for people that can, and then if, like you can give more, I would say 5 days a week, and then you rest 2 days. So you can do 3 days rest, and then you do another 2 days and then rest, and then start over cycle. Because you need to create it's just like showering. Think of showering. Like, okay, maybe you don't shower one day, it's okay, next day, then you shower. The pipes, these energy channels, they're continuously being kind of like receiving input, either through your food, through the way you think, through what you listen, what we call the emotional diet, like a spiritual diet. It's not just enough to have the good physical diet. It's wonderful, but it doesn't suffice, because by having negative thinking patterns, or listening to negativity all the time, gossip, what people love, criticize, judging, all of that is creating obstacle in the energy body. So we have a lot of negative input, which are, in the world that we live right now, through all of the social media, the news, this, that, we are often much more impacted than in the past. So the Sukshma Vyayama, and that, to just circle back to your question, came, through this yogi that was in the Himalayas. He lived to be 336 years. And he had one person that was devotee, that was Dhirendra Brahmachari. Dhirendra Brahmachari was living in the Himalayas, and in the 60s or end of 50s, he was just, like having his morning routine, walking. That's the story. He's walking in the Himalayas, and then Nehru, which was one of the prime minister of India, was flying over, and then he spotted this man, dressing like a Speedo sort of kind of like clothes. And then he's like, how can someone, because the Himalayas, I don't know, I've been in the Himalayas many years ago, and I went all the way in a very high place because I did a pilgrimage. And it's very cold in the summertime. I had it's cold. So imagine, like in wintertime. And so he got so impressed with this man. He's like, how can you actually survive in these conditions? He sent someone to go get him and bring him to Delhi. And in the meeting with him in Delhi, and then he explains, look, I do this, I do that. This is my lifestyle. The Nehru became so impressed that he wanted to kind of learn more and then apply it in his own life. His daughter, Indira Gandhi, which also became a prime minister later on, she became BFFs with Dhirendra, and they put him on TV. So he was the first yogi that came all the way from the Himalayas to be in front of TVs, and then just showing people, like lame people, like everybody from the world, from India, to how to do this practice. And that's how it became popular. And Indira Gandhi swore by it and said, like, this is the practice that everybody should be doing with all the hustle and bustle, times that we're living right now. And that's then when there was no internet, there was no social media, there was not so much stimulation. So right now, this is the perfect practice for people that are looking for health, and not just physical health, as I said, because it's not enough. Because I have a lot of clients, just as probably you do, that are eating very healthy, and they have a healthy physical fitness routine, but they are having so many mental problems. So many like narcissistic behavior, bipolar, schizophrenic, all of this type of stuff. And depending on their also background, it affects more or less, right? And in this method, because it's breath-based, and the wisdom is that the mind always follows the breath. The mind always follows the breath, and the mind will always follow the breath. So if I am training my breath through this exercise that has a routine, just like people go to the gym to do their biceps and their triceps and their quads, I'm training my mind. My mind now is being trained through the breath, because I'm bringing rhythm to the breath. I'm bringing high vibration to my breath. And then everything in me and my being is balanced, because the mind will control the entire body function, right? Like everything, like how you think. That's why athletes, and that's why this practice is so good for athletes. Athletes, before they run a marathon or before a game or something, they go through it in their mind. So in divine spiritual wisdom, the divine plane, which corresponds to this, the thinking plane, is the one that creates the emotional plane, and then the physical plane. So you have to go through the 3 planes to make it happen. So the idea in the mind, they're like, oh yes, this is amazing. I can see it. Then you feel it, right? So you have the thought, then you feel it. The feeling is the infusion of the gas, the energy. And then eventually over time, when is the right time, with enough amount of repetition and charged properly, then becomes material, becomes physical. So when you're controlling your food intake is wonderful, but if you're not controlling how you're thinking, what you're coming in, and how you're feeling about it, it's kind of like you have two negatives to 1 positive. You need to balance all 3 levels of existence: mental plane, emotional plane, physical plane.
It makes sense.
I can continue to talk. I just want to pause for a moment so you can say something.
No, it all makes sense. And for those listening, I've only been able to do 24 minutes of the practice.
Yet.
Yes. Tomorrow I'm doing the whole 90 minutes. And in those 24 minutes, all I got to was the head and the back of the neck, the top of the spine. What I experienced in the hours after was my ears opening up. I didn't know my ears were clogged, but something opened up and released in my ears. I had that experience of, when you get off a flight 2 hours later and your ears pop.
Or diving.
Yeah. Or, you finally get the water out of your ear from the ocean. That was the release that happened to me over like a 2-hour period afterwards. And then also what happened to me within 1 to 3 hours was I felt something on the left side of my head, of my brain, just suddenly open up and expand.
That's incredible.
What are some stories that people you've worked with have told you about how they have felt in the hours after doing this practice?
It's basically, the bottom line is in conclusion, it reflects the opening of the channels, right? So in different people, we reflect in different ways because everybody's body is different. So maybe there was something that was not right or completely balanced that needed more attention. So it went straight there. Because what we have to understand, and this is what I teach all my students and clients, is that there is an intelligence within this body. And this intelligence is what actually creates 2 cells into a being, right? So sometimes we underestimate the intelligence and the power of the body. So when you're bringing prana in your body, combined with the movements, because movement is life, life is movement. A person that is dead, there's no movement, right? So life, you see a baby, you hold the baby and their legs are because life is movement. So you're combining movement, which is life, with breath, which is also life. And then you're getting inputs through your nervous system because you're listening to the sounds, the different mantras that is playing, and not even chanting in the beginning, you just chant towards the end of the practice. Then your body just go and activate that intelligence. And it's like, wake up, body. What do you need? Then it's like, okay, maybe there is a tension here in this neck. I have one client that was, I think, for my skeptical mind, I have to say, because, I listen a lot of feedback and I have very spiritual clients, very skeptical clients. So this person is in between, and they said, Renata, I'm kind of not sure how to say this to you, but my eyesight have improved. And I said, oh, amazing. Nothing surprises me, to be honest. I'm always happy and grateful, but nothing really surprised because I know this is a wonderland. And I said, so how do you know, what happened? She said, well, I was wearing my contact lens. This is after maybe 14 days of practice. Okay. Because there was a point that before the pandemic that we're doing in person, that we're doing the challenges of 2 weeks and stuff. So people after the 3rd, 4th day, they really start to realize a lot of changes. In the beginning, there is little things here and there, but then you kind of feel I can conquer the world, right? Because a lot of power. And I said, so how it happened? She's I was trying my contacts and I was this is not, there must be wrong. I think my prescription is wrong. And then they went back and I go back to the garbage to see. It's I don't wear contacts, so I don't really know how it works, but I'm trying to replay what she told me. And it's oh no, this is the right one. So she went back to the doctor and then her eyesight had literally physically improved, which that prescription no longer served her because now it's not necessary. A lot of people report digestion improvements, and you see as you go down into the practice, there is a lot of movement in the abdominal area with a lot of pump. Like our navel center is a very powerful kind of not just chakra, but a center, because it's connected with the entire nervous system and all of the gut system. So that stimulation and bringing more blood flow in there improves circulation. So people that normally have constipation, like they start going to the bathroom once, twice a day. People that have headaches, like I have one particular student that she's also becoming a teacher. She always like, I don't know if I can come today. I'm like, I woke up with like this migraine. Like, I don't know if it's the moon, because, you know, there's solar flares. And then I like a check, there is nothing going on. I'm like, just not, I don't think I can make it. And I said, you know what happens when you come, you know, because I'm a little, I'm gentle, but I'm tough with love. Okay. So it's like, you know what happens when you come, like, so you should come. So they come. And then after like 15 minutes, like, it's gone, you know, like, because I'm teaching and everything is happening. It's like, it's gone. It's like, you already knew it, that was going to happen. It's just when you are in pain, you just can't kind of, you know, think straight. Like, and this is true for any sorts of pain. I healed myself. I avoided a back surgery through this practice, because, you know, it's just, you bring energy when there is no energy and there is stagnation. So if there is like think of like, as a chef, like we're talking about food. I was born on a Thursday, and one day we're going to have another interview that we talk about the planets and all of these things.
Yes, because that's how we first started talking.
Exactly. Yes. So I was born on a Thursday. So I'm always interested in good food, healthy food. I love food. Everything I relate is always related to food. So in this case, imagine like a pan of a rice. And then you forgot it, and then it got burned, and then the rice now is sticking into the bottom of it, and then it's like so hard. So when you put water, you have to kind of let it sit a little bit. You go there, scrub it, and then you go back. It's the same with the blocks in the body. Some blocks are very old blocks. It takes longer time to actually clear them. Others are new. Maybe something happened to you yesterday. Somebody screamed at you and then you got kind of traumatized, or some accident or something. So there is, depending on how the situation is, and again, we don't use problem, we don't use disease, we use the words kind of situation, so it doesn't give more power to it. Depending on the situation, it will take more or less time, but you always see the result because they're very immediate. Like after 5 minutes of the practice, this surge, and you say like, I couldn't take anymore, like, is because there is a transformation happening in your body. And it's not that you took anything to enhance it, it's just your own life force combined with the universal force, because it's the prana that is in the air, and then this desire to become better, to heal, and to do something for your health. So this is the practice for this time. People should not just learn it for themselves, but they should learn to teach other people. My part of our mission, Melissa and I, which we're like, we have this book that is coming out, is to really get people to feel responsible to help other people. And I know you do this work the same way I do my work. I don't do it for the money. I do it because I want the world to be better. And for the world to be better, I have to create more soldiers to help them. Like, or in your case, you're giving, your herbs that you sell and all of this, your mixtures. So people have that vibration in their house. So we're doing our work at the seed level and teaching people so they can teach other people. Like a mom can tell to her daughter that maybe was born on a Tuesday, ruled by Mars, and we're going to get back to this in another episode, that like how to manage your anger. So I'm going to teach you how to do this breath. Do this Sitali Pranayam breath, a cooling breath. So you're using the technology, the spiritual technology in times that are so needed now, because the world is so, people are going through so much mental, emotional disturbances, that the physical aspect is just kind of like a result of all of the crap that is happening externally and then in the inner world, in a mental and an emotional plane.
You actually brought me to tears. When you mentioned that you do what you do because you want to teach other people to be able to do it for themselves.
Yes.
And that's why I do what I do, because I want everyone to know what I've had to pay and spend time studying and learning, because I feel like these are tools that everybody deserves to have in order to nourish themselves and fuel themselves to live the life that they want. Yes. And I will have gotten to the place in my career where I am fulfilled when I'm in a place where I have taught others to fuel and nourish and feed themselves. Yes. So I love that that is your mission. And I'm so grateful that you've introduced me to this practice, because I truly believe it's going to change my life.
Yes, it will.
And before we move on and talk about a few other things I have questions about,
I never follow the rules.
I have to know, I was born on a Sunday. What does that mean?
You have no other choice but to shine. And it's so easy because sun in English is the two only days of the week that you can figure out which planet is behind is Saturday and Sunday. Is Saturn and Sun. So Sunday is the planet that is the bright light. It's generous, is giving, is warm. It needs to shine its light. There is no way that I say like, sun, you have to hide today. The sun, if it's not shining in California, is shining in Japan or in Brazil or in Europe, is always shining and is continuously moving. So it's very important for you personally in terms of health, because the day we're born also rules our health, is to take care of your circulation, golden hand, feet, like golden hands and feet. Make sure that you kind of have good heart, create enough heart exercise, because it's the heart. And it's also what makes you compassionate. It makes you generous. It wants you the desire to give, but also to leave a mark. So it's like, I don't know if it's like a print, like when Chef Whitney is gone, there is this kind of heritage that you leave, not money heritage, but like the work and how many lives you have changed. That for you, in knowing, and I think you're conscious enough to know that that's something you want. But knowing or not knowing, for many people that are not aware of this wisdom, is what they want. They want to use their being to be seen so they can transmit something good to the world. Other people use for other things, but fame is in your destiny. Fame is in your destiny. So you just keep pushing the bottom. You don't take your foot out of this gas and then don't worry. This is a big advice. Do not. You have to remember this. Do not worry about what people think about you. Because the rule in spirituality there is 50-50. There will be always 50% of people that will like you, 50% that is not going to like you, or not going to enjoy, or not going to care. It doesn't matter. So you don't do things to please people. You do things because it comes out of your heart, and that's your heart desire. Knowing that that's the result, no matter how hard you work. You're always going to work hard because it's part of who you are, but you don't do it because of that, because it's a law. It's 50-50. So you do your best for the 50 that wants your work and wants to, support your work. So the great advice for this, especially for little children, for their confidence, is to not worry what people think. So, and then there's a lot more.
That was all spot on. And thank you for the reminder, everything, no matter what, we can't fight it. It's yin yang. It's the planet of polarity. It's always going to be 50% love, 50% the opposite emotion.
Yes.
And we can't transform that. That is the natural balance on the planet. So you just focus on the 50% love and keep supporting them.
Yeah, correct. So let's invite everybody to do Sukshma. We are having in July, and I don't know when people will be watching this podcast or listening to it. We have a 1 week intensive retreat, one in July and then one in September in California. July is in Mexico. And the best part of this practice is to do it in group. So you see, and one day we're going to do it in group. We just have to put a group together. And then you're going to see the difference of doing on your own, which is great for people have different time zones. Like I literally I was at the 5 I was waking up today at 4:30. I have a client in Norway, which often shows me the northern lights, which is like, show me. 5 o'clock, which is 3 o'clock in the afternoon there. So then, we could use the energy of the new moon, because I had the new moon and the solar eclipse yesterday. But you have to work in group to really feel, because you're listening to other people breathe. With me or any other teacher guiding it will be pushing you to kind of do the best you can do, because when you're doing online, there is a recording there that it's great, but is for those people that already like kind of know how to push themselves, and then doing in person outdoors, like with sunrise, which is what we normally do. Like I love to do the practice early in the morning, because the being with the empty stomach is the ideal time to do it. Sometimes we offer in the afternoon, but we tell, please come with at least 2 hours empty stomach without having any food. And then one very important thing I want to make sure, because whenever people go into the link and they learn, even though I say it, I want to highlight, there are 2 very important things you have to do after the practice. When you finish, you have to do Shavasana. Don't skip Shavasana. Sometimes it's like going to be 5 minutes. Ideally 19 minutes, it's the best time, like a good 19 minutes, because the entire time you spend going through the body, you have to magnetize yourself with it after. You have to do, it's like food, you have to let it marinate. You have to leave your body there marinating in the prana and the energy, so then you can actually use it. And then the second thing, which is non-negotiable, you have to hydrate yourself so much. Hydrate with green juices, hydrate with electrolytes, hydrate with coconut water. Like I love coconut water. The hotel where we're going is like a beautiful island in Mexico, Isla Mujeres, which is the women island. And they have all this coconut in there, and I said, my group, don't take any alcohol, please remove out of the things, replace it with all the coconut water, because I need the coconut water, because it has everything you need to, and then the meat, you can eat the meat after. But you want to detox, because this practice is highly, 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 highly detoxing. We've done it in 2019. We did some studies where we get blood before the practice with all of the people that were taking the class, and then after. I remember the very first time, and I'm going to kind of start wrapping because I'm looking at the time. I was so excited. I had no idea what the blood cell was going to show, like absolutely zero, like completely ignorant to the whole thing. And like when it's something, it's yours, you are kind of, there's a pride about it. Like, it's my blood. I want to see how is my blood. So I look at it, she's like, oh, your blood looked pretty good. And I'm like, oh, thank you, like feeling so good about it. And then when I came back, and this is someone that is a student of mine that is kind of a nurse, and she said, oh my gosh. And she's very kind of like, she doesn't measure her words. She's like, oh, this looked like crap. We didn't know what was going to happen. And I was like, what? My blood after this entire 2 hours, because we used to do 2 hours. And then she said, but it makes sense. And then her words out of her mouth was like, this is better than chelation, because I've seen blood of people, and then she said, because it's literally full. You see, then she was showing the picture, which kind of, if you don't have the eyes to see, it's like you look at a microscope, it's like, do you see these things? It's all crap. It's all toxin. This is heavy metals. And if it's 2 hours of the practice plus the nam, because for her, nam is very important because of the vibration. She said, your blood is like this, like, my God, like you now have to go clear it up, and then we're going to take it again. And then the blood just start getting better over time, because we did it a course of a week. Because the toxins, everything that lives within the body, like even in your glands, there are toxins sitting in there that you're, scratching like the rice pot out of you, and then you have to flush it out. If you don't flush it out, people often, and it sometimes happen to men that they don't hydrate enough, and it's like, oh, I have a headache. And at the end of the day, it's like, of course, congratulations. It means that the practice worked, but you didn't do your part, which is to hydrate and then flush it out. You have to flush it out. So it's not, you have to look as a totality, have a beautiful green, clean diet that is contributing to the detoxification of the body. This is like the bomb of this age. And it's going to spread. People are going to learn, and they're going to realize the power, and then they're going to just do it every day. And then it's also known as the yoga of immortality, because we age because of toxins. We age because of the way we think. We age because of the way we feel. And, we have to kind of clear all of these things out of our way, so we can live better lives, feeling good and young. So that's it.
Well, where can people sign up to take the retreats in July and September, or at least get started with online classes?
Yes, I'll get the link for you, and then I think you can add, because I think verbally it's too complicated to say.
Yes, we'll
So
add it to the show notes.
Yes, so there are links for the retreat. There in the same retreat also there is a training going on. So anybody that actually is already in the fitness world, like we really are praying for the right people to come that are really wanting to share this. And so there is a retreat happening at the same time as the teacher training, and then there's online classes going on, and we're going to have a beautiful space by the grace of God sooner than later in Malibu for people to come in person.
I can't wait. I
Yes.
can't wait.
Yes.
Because it is wonderful to do at home, but you feel like you want to do it in person when you're doing it.
Yes, and there's a specialness in listening to other people's breath. Like this sound is the sound of like God breathing through us. So when you hear other people, like you often see, like in every, like we didn't do our breath thing that I was planning to do it, but like often in interviews or something, like when I take a deep breath, you see people taking deep breath because it's inspiring you, because it's like you're calling on life, you're calling on life force in you. And I know you always like to give a tip, and I want to make sure that I don't leave without giving that tip.
Don't worry. I have one more question and then I'll have you give the tip.
Okay.
Where can people connect with you, learn more about you, and what's the name of your book?
Okay, my book's called Breath as Medicine. It's basically a beautiful photography book as well, because there are all the different pictures of this practice, which makes you feel like very royal, because it's a royal lineage. So it's called The Breath as Medicine, and I'm co-author with Alisa Gausted, is my sister and partner in business for over 22 years too. So she's a wonderful, also Canal is blonde. We love you, Michael, when you watch this. And then the best way is through Instagram right now, like also LinkedIn. People always, trying to get me to other things, platforms. But as you know as well, like we're in the business of serving other people, and we're learning that we have to force ourselves to get more into social media and all of that. So right now it's Instagram and then LinkedIn. And I do have a YouTube channel, but it's in Spanish. So
I'll have those links for everyone at the bottom of the show notes. And can you leave our listeners with one healthy tip they can consider adding into their life?
Yes. They should do it. They shouldn't consider it. Should just do it because it's free, basically. You have to get one thermos that is a very good thermos. This is a Japanese thermos, and it doesn't matter. I can send it to you after, but a thermos that keeps hot water very hot. So you want to boil water, ideally on fire. So you're having that fire element. Water is in Hebrew is ma'im, and then fire is shin, right? So this is shamayim, which is hot water, and water is the hand of God. And when you put the water in your body, you're infusing it with all the love and high vibration, and say, love you, water. You're such a good water. Thank you for hydrating me. Like you're bringing me health, success, abundance, goodness, harmony, divine protection. And then you're going to drink this water. But because it's so hot, you have to be very careful. You have to sip like this, which is a secret, like a breath secret that you're taking little small sips of water, but at the same time you're breathing through your mouth. So, and there is a technique that we can leave it for another time, that you just do it every minute. You take a sip to heal the body. But hot water is the best free remedy that people can get. And they should take at least, it's a very minimum, 3 cups a day. It will improve your circulation. It will give you beautiful skin. Just along with this practice, people they don't bring cold water. Everybody in my class, they bring a thermos. So you're sipping hot water as you're cleaning up the pipes, and through the breath, you're opening your arteries and veins with the hot water, because it creates a dilation vase, right? I don't know how you say that, because I know in Portuguese, vasodilatação, like you dilate the vase and then the arteries, so there is more blood flow. That's why you keep yourself beautiful and young.
My mom's a big hot water drinker all day long. She won't drink it room temperature. She won't drink it cold. It's hot all day long.
I bet she's beautiful and has a beautiful skin.
Fascinating. Yeah, she looks really good and has never had any plastic surgery. It's quite impressive considering she's in her 70s.
Yeah.
That's a great tip. One last thing before you go. Are there any words that you recommend that we write on our water bottles that can help the vibration of the water?
Yes, you can actually charge like, depending when people watch this, but remember the first 3 days of the new moon for us, we just happened last night. It's very good to charge your water. So there's mantras that you can use. You can do 11 minutes of Aum, which is a form of Om. It's Aum, 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 Aum. You go up the scale. You can use any words in any language because it doesn't matter. So if you're looking for love, write love, because love is the highest vibration, but there is actually a ritual that I have, that there is an affirmation for each day of the week. So I have like waters that are labeled for each day of the week, because each day has a different energy, planetary energy. So
I want to learn that.
Yeah, I know.
I want to learn that, which that. So another time you will be on,
yes,
and we will break down the days of the week, and then how we can better use the energy of each day of the week into our lives, just so we have more flow and grace.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's just a matter of synchronizing yourself with the right flow. If you want to be in a high vibration, you have to take the high vibrational road. If you can't be in high vibration if you're in a bad vibrational road. So it's kind of tuning yourself into it. And it's all is vibration, all is really love, is all kind of masked with all the crap that we have to clear out of the ways. Sukshma Method is a great method to do it. I cannot wait to see you in person. I give you a lot of love and a lot of peace and a lot of light. I hug you from Malibu, and I cannot wait to see you in person.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this with me and with the audience today. What a treat. And we look forward to chatting with you again.
Me too. Thank you.
Oops.
Okay.
Oops. Are you there?
Oh, yeah. But I will.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.